Hello my friends and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about moss balls like this one. It is the type of moss balls that I use with the plastic back and this mesh in the front. It basically promotes your plant's bigger leaf growth because every single node can root into the moss and the roots can go also down in the soil, and it makes the plant mature noticeably faster. Not with this one specifically, not so much, because this is a small form monstera. It doesn't really like to show that too much. I don't have too many that are doing amazing on moss balls right now, but there is a lot that you can see, especially big thanks to Sydney Plant Guy, who basically invented this type of moss ball. He is big here on YouTube, so you all know him already, but I'm gonna show you kind of what I do and how to make one, and then maybe how I take care of them and some tips along the way. Let's get into this. If you're kind of new to moss balls and you're thinking, what plants should I even put on moss balls? That's a good question, and the truth is, most philodendrons, most monsteras, well, any monsteras, you can put anthuriums on there, epipremnums like your golden pothos, or most aroids. There is some species like this Palmania right here that would not love a moss ball because it's a crawler and they just kind of crawl on the ground and they also mature, but most of these plants love to grow up. One thing to not give moss balls is alocasias, because simply their growth is not meant for moss balls. So let me show you why. They all grow from the base and every single new leaf comes from that kind of base in down there, while with other plants like aroids, the new leaf will come from the latest leaf, okay? Which is why you want to put them on a moss ball. Here are a few examples from, I'll probably just put Jan's, plants that mature really well on moss balls, and here is how they look. I don't have such amazing results to show you yet. I've been using moss balls for some time, but look, it really takes a long time to have your plant really get on the moss ball. Yeah, so today we're gonna be making one. So today I'm gonna show you like a standard way I make moss balls. I have no idea if I'm gonna do it for my Florida Beauty or for my Monstera Tetrasperma variegated. As you can see, it is a climber. Ignore the 18. It is a climber, but I broke off the root by a mistake. Do not do that. If you can, please do not do that. The most important thing is this plastic backing. Why does this help? Well, it's good because if you only use mesh to make your moss balls, they're gonna dry out super quickly and you can't water them as easily because the water is just gonna flow over them. With a moss ball like this, first of all, you can also use different mediums, and after that, they're gonna stay wet for longer. What you're gonna see with a lot of my plants is I put saran wrap around the nodes when each leaf grows, so that the entire moss ball is a closed space, because it is moss and it's gonna dry out faster than the soil down there. So I already pre-cut a strip of this plastic. This is maybe like 1 millimeter, but it's just clear plastic, and it's kind of thick, but it's kind of not that thick, so it's something that can stand on its own. That's super important. This is kind of heavy, like kind of hard to manipulate. It depends on the moss ball if I want to close it off with this, or I want to have it kind of halfway, like a half moon. I'm gonna show you an example. On my Adansonii, I have like a half moon. The reason being, I have 3 plants going up the pole, so I wanted a bigger surface on this mesh. If you only have 1 plant, 1 stem, which isn't that thick, you can just have a thinner mesh and more plastic. It's gonna do better. So it does matter what you're gonna be putting on. So the second material that you're gonna need is this mesh. I have plastic, but some people use metal. Some people use metal. I prefer plastic because, well, it doesn't rust and it's easier to work with, and that's just kind of it. The third thing that you're gonna need absolutely a lot of are zip ties. I get these from the dollar store. These are like a euro, the euro store. But these are different lengths. Doesn't matter the color or anything, but I use the clear plastic, the dark brown mesh, and black zip ties. It looks okay because this also comes in an ugly green and other colors, but I don't really like that. So that's what we're gonna be using. So, well, let's make one for my Florida Beauty because it's gonna need a moss ball pretty soon. So let's think about this. So first of all, you have to look at your plant and you'll be like, okay, where will I put my moss ball? Probably for me, I'm gonna put it on this side down here because it can open up like this and we have like a nice clear access to the stem. We want the stem to touch the moss ball for this to have the best success, right? This moss ball is probably not gonna be super thick because it is only one stem, but I am gonna have a little less of this and a little more of this because I want this to kind of be more a closed one. This, actually looking at it, I think this is for another plant because this is too much plastic. So I'm gonna cut off a piece of plastic and that's it. So what I do is I just do a full length. It's like a meter, I think, and I just look at it and how thick I want it, and that's just kind of, I just eyeball it. So I'm gonna take my scissor, no, actually I should draw with my marker. It's gonna be a little hard to show you, but basically I'm just gonna measure out as much as I want, and I'm gonna take this plastic as like a little line maker, a little ruler, because it's really big, and we're just gonna draw this and cut it off, okay? Super simple. So here I use alcoholic markers to draw on the plastic, but you do need something to get it off the plastic. Anything alcoholic works. We have acetone for nails. Hand sanitizer works well. I've had that before. I use scissors because I don't want to severely injure myself with a sharp knife, okay? Let me cut this. Oh my god. I admit this shouldn't be too hard, but my scissors are really bad. And when we're done, we kind of have a plastic sheet. That's it. One thing that I like to do with these is I trim the edges because I am making it super ugly when I'm cutting it, and I don't want to cut myself on these ugly, nasty edges. It's good to have this straight edge, but it doesn't have to be perfect. The second thing that I like to do is, because this is really big, okay, I like to kind of cut it a little bit over the middle. So now we have a more manageable size for the moss. Possibility with this plant, because it is already potted and maybe I don't want to repot it because it's a good mix, we could put a little part of this plastic in the soil, like just shove it from the side, and maybe that would be the best option. We're gonna cut two lines here and here. The bottom part is gonna go in the soil. The top part is gonna close up to make the actual moss ball, and that's how we can easily insert it into our pot. So it's gonna go down here, just like that. This is not as stable as if you just have your entire pole closed and you repot the plant to fit directly on the pole and you pot it all together like this. That's a better option. But this plant, I don't want to disturb the roots. It's too precious for me. So I'll just make this little part and I'll show you how to do it. So I'll kind of measure out how much of this is actually gonna go in the soil. And it's not too much. Like maybe it's like maybe like this. So I just make a little cut. And then from the other side, make a little cut. Okay, you see what we're doing now? We have the top closed and the bottom open. From the bottom, it's really hard to see. I'm sorry. This is how it's gonna look, right? Really, really cool. Now we're gonna move on the second step. So the second step is to just cut this length, so from the top to this part that's gonna be on the top of the soil, we're gonna cut some of this mesh, okay? So for this specific one, since we only have one stem, I'm gonna do 4 lines. So this is maybe like 4 centimeters, but it does depend like on what you're doing. We can see that this is actually pretty thin, and I'm just gonna cut off both of these sides and align it to the plastic. Let's do that. Just like that. This is finished and it is fit to the size. You can see down here how it's gonna fit, okay? Now here's what we're gonna do next. We're gonna align this to the plastic, and we're gonna start at the top, okay? And you're gonna use your marker to draw dots on the plastic every 5 to 6 holes. Depends. I like to do maybe with this size because it's a little bit big. I'll do 1 dot, 5 squares in between, and then 1 dot, okay? Each of these dots is gonna be where we put a zip tie. So let's just go ahead and do that. I will do this at the table because I have to be a little more precise, but I'll be right back. This is completed. You can see, yeah, okay. You can see that there's dots, and mine just aligned with the bottom one, but make sure that on the bottom it also touches here in the edge, okay? Next step is to take your scissors or soldering iron and make holes on each of these. I use scissors because I do not want to buy the iron purely for this, but I'll put it like on my finger. I'll put this tip on here and I'll just kind of roll it, okay? Super simple, super fast, and you do make a nice little hole that's just big enough. This can be a little tiring for your hands, but it can also be a little workout. Good, we love working out, but it's really not that bad. Just go ahead and make all the holes. And this goes quite quickly if you're being careful and you just cut away from yourself. Now this is prepared for use, almost. One thing I forgot to do is we're gonna do a little zigzag down here. We're gonna cut out little triangles so we can actually push this in the soil. And I think that's where I'm gonna leave it, just like that, okay? Just like that. Next step is securing this mesh to the plastic. I'm gonna use the smaller ones right now. So we have 3 sides. No, actually I'm gonna use the middle ones. I don't know why, it doesn't really matter because they all hold, but in general. So we're gonna start by doing one side, okay? I'm gonna hold on. So what I do first is I put it from the inside. So you see, this is like the inside, okay? You put it from the inside and then you put it through the plastic, through the first one. You have this, okay? And then you close your zip tie, okay? I can do this with one hand, but you close it so that the head of the zip tie is on the inside. And that's what you do with every single one of these. Really make sure that you leave the space in between. If you leave the wrong amount of holes, you will have to redo that, okay? But let's do this entire side. Just like that, I am done. Now we come to the tricky part, which is adding moss, okay? My little specialty about moss balls is that I like to add a little bit of soil aeroid mix in the back of the moss ball. I put moss over it and then I close it up. The reason for that is moss is really expensive, so moss is probably gonna cost you the most. And why wouldn't we have some soil in the back if we can? Because it's not bad. Like, Like I like it, okay? One thing to keep in mind is that if you're doing moss balls like this, that you just put in the soil and you don't actually put the plant on the pole, when you repot it, you can't pick up the entire pot like I did with some others because it's not holding everything so well. But as the plant grows on the pole and it has good roots, you can pick it up by the pole. Be careful, you don't want to rip out the pole, that would be not good. As I said, this part is a little more tricky, so I'm gonna do my best to show you how to do it. But I have my arid mix right here. I have my moss in here. This is just sphagnum moss. One thing I forgot to do is cut off the tips of this zip ties. We're gonna do the trickiest part ever. So I like to take some zip ties and I like to use the longer ones, and I'll just put one maybe like in the beginning, in the middle, and that. The reason I'm doing this is that it's gonna help me kind of keep it closed just enough. I'm gonna use the longest zip ties that I have and I'm gonna put them from the bottom up in the plastic and through the hole of the mesh, and I'm just gonna close them barely, like the first few dots, just so that it holds it like that, okay? From the bottom up through the hole and close it a little bit. So as you can see, this isn't enough, so I'm just gonna close it a little more before I add my mix, but do leave enough room to actually add the soil and everything. So I have it like this. I'm gonna take my aerate mix and I'm gonna put it right in there, okay? This is actually like a decent size moss ball, so I'm gonna do like a nice layer of the mix. And again, this is to have some soil in there, but to also reduce the volume of sphagnum moss needed. Now we're gonna start taking our moss and we're gonna start kind of packing it from the inside, like underneath there, underneath the mesh, okay? Be careful here in the end because it's gonna be dropping soil over everywhere maybe. You think, oh, that's a lot of moss. Well, it's not. You need way more. So I just pack in a bunch more moss because when you close this up, it's gonna increase the volume and it suddenly is empty, you know? So you kind of do this step by step, kind of slowly, to not put too much or too little. The top can be a little more empty because you can always add it from the top, but the rest should be pretty well packed, okay? Okay, and then now it's time for zip ties, so go ahead and put in all the rest of the zip ties, but close them only halfway. Good. Good. Now if you see that you need more moss, this is kind of the time to add it in. And after that, you can start closing off your moss ball. And we're gonna close them like to keep this zip ties facing outwards. It is pretty much completed. Where's my stick? You can use a stick to kind of push the moss anywhere you want to kind of not have this empty spaces that maybe happened. One last thing to do is to cut off the zip ties. And you might be saying, oh, but they are turned outside and they look ugly and I'm gonna cut myself on them. No, you're good. Let me show you why. With the same stick, we're gonna turn it around and we're gonna push them inside, basically. So push them, turn them 180 degrees. Just push them with a stick. And they should go pretty nicely because the shape is already allowing for that. Okay. And in this bottom part, I'm gonna remove some of the moss, I'm gonna put it on a side, and I'm gonna add some more soil mix in here. It is true, you know, these soil moss balls are more dirty than only moss balls because soil just goes everywhere. But if you want to add that little thing, I think it's a good thing to add. So this is our Florida. I'm gonna move this soil out of the way so we can get in with a little stick. If there's any roots on the sides, I wanna move some soil out the way. Oh, there goes my stick again. And I'm just gonna basically turn this around like this. Oh, this is not gonna fit. Okay, we're gonna have to do a little trick and just kind of, yeah. Oh, this is gonna be a little bit annoying. Oh, this is not going in. Fun stuff. I have another trick. We're gonna remove one of these triangles and we're gonna make this thinner so that it's gonna go in easier, okay? That should work much better, hopefully. So I'm just removing the root ball a little bit, trying not to disturb it too much, but oh well. How do I, okay. Yeah, okay. It's gonna get messy. Oh, you know what? This fits much better. Oh, we're good. Actually, we Gucci. This fits really well. And just like that, you have moss pulled your plant. Yes, this is not as stable, but I'm gonna add some soil in the back. This is basically it. Have fun with your moss balls. Really be careful to not overwater the plant. That's the only thing that you have to be careful about. If you put it in a ceramic pot, this should stay by itself. And hopefully that's it. Oh my god! Wow. Mine looks really good. How about yours? I don't have one to show you, but a lot of times you can just put a zip tie through both the moss ball and the back of the plastic pot, and it holds it kind of together. Like, don't pick it up when it's full of water, okay? One more thing to keep in mind is always use chunkier soil mix, so something that's gonna let the water drain. Never have a closed pot, always have a lot of drainage because you're gonna be watering it a little more often purely because of the moss ball drying out quickly. How to combat that? You also make the mix dry out a bit faster so you don't overwater the plant because that's gonna rot the plant, and I killed so many like that. So do not do that. Please do not do that. What I do when I water it, I just take it to the shower. I shower the entire thing. Super simple, super cool. Do watch out for the soil because it's going to go in your drain. Do not do that. I usually put something in the shower to not allow it. I absolutely did not expect this video to take this long to edit, but here I am with an update. It's been a few weeks actually, and here is the update. So you can probably see we have a new pretty leaf and it has a really beautiful irrigation. Let me try to show you it. It is super pretty. It is very like variegated, but it's like kind of hard to see because it's hardening off. We're a bit dark right now. And yeah, you're not gonna see this, but it's actually, I'm gonna try to show you it. It is actually growing a root in the moss ball. So it's working. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I hope I did a well representation of how I do this. If you found this video helpful, go ahead and subscribe and like this video. My ultimate goal is 1,000 subscribers and I can't wait to get there. So if you want to help me, go ahead and do that, and I'll see you in the next one. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!